This is a warning to the police and the military. One of these days, you're going to retire and you're going to be a civilian, just another average bro with a purchase and acquisition license, just like the rest of us. If you don't know what that is, for my American friends, well, that's a gun license. That's what we call it here in Canada. You can purchase and acquire if you meet all of the very stringent criteria. And typically that requires not having a criminal record, ergo why criminals don't get legal firearms in our country. Now, you could probably imagine why I'm making this video. Because the Canadian government is attempting to force, and I say force because I know full well that probably the majority of police don't agree with these bullshit laws, because they understand that when they retire and they turn in that badge and that piece, that they're just another bro with a PAL. And whatever the government has decided is left, that's what they're going to be stuck with. And they're going to spend their entire career enforcing these bullshit laws, building out this prison that we all have to live in and that they have to live in thereafter. And you make your bed, you're going to have to lay in it with the rest of us. Mark my words. And the average age of retirement is 58. It ain't that far, okay? So, and that's not even just retire. I mean, you're probably going to be off the beat, whatever they call it. Before that, I presume, pushing pencils. And I don't know what sort of privileges you were afforded by that point. Maybe you're not a firearms person. Maybe, I'm not here making some moralistic appeal, didactically trying to tell you what's right and what's wrong and what you should do, trying to invoke patriotic sentiments and things of that nature. That's not what I'm here to do today. I want you to think about this from a selfish point of view. I want you to think about what's going to happen when I'm done with this job. And if you don't agree with these bullshit laws, I'm not saying you got to resist and not comply. Of course, that would, you'd be incriminating yourself in many respects. So, the best you can do is say, well, we're going to not prioritize it, which is what a lot of great Canadian police chiefs do. And I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your ass and be like, I appreciate each and every one of you, because some of you are assholes, but the overwhelming majority are good guys, okay? And that's in any profession. But I'm not going to be one of these people who sits here and plays pretend like every interaction I have with a cop is good, especially when I'm blazing to work in the morning. Maybe I'm going 15 over the speed limit on a double-lane highway that's marked as 110 on a landmass that is flatter than Taylor Swift, okay? And you could see the next car up ahead 30 miles away, and this guy's only prerogative all day is to sit there and collect extra tax revenue for the government. I'm going to be mildly pissed about that. That's not to say you're a bad person, right? That just means that, well, you're kind of an enforcement arm of an illegitimate system. So anyways, this post-uniform peril is coming, right? You understand that. And I know you guys, and maybe I'm just speaking to a very select few of you. And I'm confident that you guys know who the bad guys are. You guys know that your family members who aren't cops, but go out, target, shoot, hunt, do whatever you want to do with guns that's legal, right? You know that those are not the criminals. You know that an AR-15 has never been used, legally allotted AR-15 has never been used in a violent crime before. You know all these statistics, right? So you know that the people who legally acquire guns are some of the most thoroughly vetted, upstanding members of society, like yours truly. Okay, occasionally I'm taking a picture out the window, going through the mountains or something, and you catch me and you give me a $400 distracted driving ticket. Fine. Okay, we can still be friends. At the end of the day, I'm trying to tell you that there is an insidious creep towards tyranny in this country. Again, I'm not saying you got to turn in your badge tomorrow. You got to join the picket lines. Of course, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying have these conversations, right? Have these conversations with your peers. Talk about how full of shit these rules are, because you know who the bad guys are. You know that law-abiding gun owners are not the problem. And you're aware also of this boomerang effect, that what you put out there, what you selectively enforce throughout your career will come to bite you in the ass in the end. Because if you're living under a regime that is having you impose unjust laws, you're effectively building a prison that you will have to live the rest of your life in. The latter 58 years and beyond of your life, after 58, that's what you're going to have to live with. If that means hunting with a musket for the rest of your life, maybe we don't even get muskets. Maybe you guys can't see it on the camera, but you have to use an air bow like that, which is great. You know, it's a great gun, but pales in comparison to what they want to take away from us. So, and I know a lot of you guys are preppers too. You understand the criminal element. You even don't have a problem with self-defense in a lot of ways. But I think a lot of you have been kind of conditioned to believe that. And this is the weird thing, is that you're all about self-defense, but they've in large part conditioned the average civilian in Canada that to defend yourself is somehow a reprehensible act. So, you know, I hope I'm getting the point across here. I know you probably expected more of a spicy me versus you video. That's not what I'm about. But I am a realist. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that every interaction I have with the police. I mean, if you're asking me where I'm going and you have no right to ask me that, I'm going to tell you to kick rocks, right? I'm going to do what I'm able to do within the parameters of law. But I also understand, and I have police officer friends. We do business with the police. So, but again, you guys know this Canadian Prepper, this is a realistic channel. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to hold your hand. Getting too old for that shit. And I'm not going to sit here and try to get your vote or something like that. I want you to think about how it's going to affect you. Because I really do think, and I'm a unifier. You know, there's nothing I would love to see more than the Aboriginal communities in the north who use these firearms to hunt, unifying with the people who use them for the purpose that they're intended to be used for, right? Target shooters, Aboriginal hunters, police who know who the criminals are. These groups unify and collectively protest this. Not even go out and physically protest necessarily, but express our discontent with it. And it might materialize to a protest at some point. Maybe it turns into some truckers thing. Now, I'm not sticking my neck out that far. I've done a lot to bring awareness to this whole thing, but I'm not ready to sacrifice myself for people who aren't willing to sacrifice for themselves. And I'm not asking you to sacrifice anything either. I'm just saying, have these conversations with your peers. And maybe that discourse will create an inertia all of its own that will derail this ridiculous gun buyback nonsense, whatever it is. Because we all know at the end of the day, the people whose doors you're going to have to knock on and collect these firearms are going to be your family and friends. And they're going to be family and friends that you know full well are not criminals. They've always played by the rules, right? They've always paid their taxes. These are good people who want nothing more than just to be left alone. That's it. And they're being incriminated by unjust laws, which have been shown empirically to not be instrumental towards the ends that they claim they're supposed to be. So all I ask is have an awareness of the fact that someday you're going to be one of us. And maybe this is something that you guys think about. I don't know. Is this something that people think about in the cop consciousness? Is in the military too? The reason why I say the military is because, you know, there is a paramilitary component to all of this stuff, in that it might not be enforcing things domestically that you agree with, but it might be abroad. And just remember, you have to lay in the bed that you make. And right here at home, the current government is trying to make a bed that, quite frankly, they're shitting in at the same time. And who wants to sleep in a shitty bed? So again, I'm not going to give you a lecture on moral duty and what make any prescriptions about what you should do. I just want you to think about that. That's it. That's all. I salute thee. Those of you who love the work you do, who are trying their darndest to keep our community safe, who are doing what they can within the parameters that they've been circumscribed to do, to use their authority for the betterment of all of us. And again, it's not just us versus you. You are a member of our community. And it might not seem that way now because there's this artificial divide between us. But at the end of the day, it all becomes quite obvious. And, well, you know, if the shit hits the fan, then I guess all bets are off, right? So, anyways, my friends, I hope this landed how I wanted it to. I'm not sure if it did. You know, again, I'm not catering to people's sensitivities, but I don't think I'm saying anything that's too egregious. Let me know in the comment section below. And if you can relate to what I'm saying, which I'm sure most of you can, right? I'm sure like I'm preaching to the choir here for the most part. I know full well that 90% of cops get it, you know, probably even more than that. But then again, there's also like a new generation that has been maybe indoctrinated into things that, and they've forgotten these fundamental aspects of living in a democratic society is, you know, the civil liberties that you defend and that you are there to protect. You know, if you're eroding them throughout your career, then that's what you're going to be stuck with in the end. So, you know, just think about it. Something to think about. I need the more you know conclusion. Dun, 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 dun. The more you know. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.